Have you ever wondered what would happen if the sun suddenly disappeared? I don't mean just the sun setting or going behind a cloud. I mean, what if it simply ceased to exist? Poof, gone. No supernova, no explosion, just instant emptiness where our star used to be. It sounds like the plot of a terrifying sci-fi movie, but looking into the physics of this hypothetical scenario reveals a chain of events that is equal parts fascinating and horrifying. Let's set the scene. It's a normal Tuesday afternoon. You're walking your dog, sitting in a park, or maybe just looking out the window at a bright blue sky. If the sun disappeared right this second, you wouldn't know it. In fact, nobody on Earth would have a clue. For exactly 8 minutes and 20 seconds, everything would seem perfectly normal. This is because light travels at a finite speed, roughly 186,000 miles per second. The sun is about 93 million miles away, so the photons hitting your retina right now actually left the sun over 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. If the sun vanished, that stream of photons would continue to arrive at Earth until the stream ran out. It's like a hose. If you turn off the tap, water continues to pour out of the nozzle until the hose is empty. But here's where things get really weird. It's not just the light that takes time to travel. Gravity travels at the speed of light too. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, this means that for those 8 minutes and 20 seconds, Earth would continue to orbit a center of mass that is no longer there. We would be swinging around a ghost. Then, the moment of truth arrives. Let's say it's noon in New York City. Suddenly, without a sunset, without a twilight, the sky would go completely, instantly black. It wouldn't just be dark, it would be the darkest night you have ever experienced. The moon, which shines only by reflecting sunlight, would instantly disappear from view. The planets like Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn would vanish one by one as the last ripples of sunlight reached them and then ceased. Fun fact, Jupiter is further away, so we would technically see Jupiter for about 30 to 40 minutes after the sun vanished, before it too winked out of existence. At that exact moment, the cosmic leash would be cut. Since gravity is no longer holding us in a circle, we would stop orbiting. We wouldn't spiral outward or fall inward. We would simply fly off in a straight line tangent to our orbit, traveling at 67,000 miles per hour into the vast freezing void of deep space. We would effectively become a rogue planet, a spaceship Earth with no pilot and no destination. Now, you might think we would freeze instantly, turning into human popsicles within seconds. Surprisingly, that's not the case. The Earth is quite large and holds on to heat fairly well. Think about when you turn off a hot oven. It stays warm for a long time. Our atmosphere acts like a blanket, trapping the heat we've accumulated over billions of years. However, the temperature drop would begin immediately. Within the first week, the average global temperature would drop below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a drastic change, but it's survivable for humans with the right technology and clothing. We would panic, certainly, but we wouldn't freeze to death on day one. The real crisis in the first 24 hours wouldn't be the cold. It would be the collapse of the biosphere's engine, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis stops the moment the light goes out. This means every plant on Earth immediately stops producing oxygen. Now, don't worry about suffocating. We have enough oxygen in the atmosphere to last humanity thousands of years. The problem is the food chain. Most small plants and houseplants would die within days. Grass would turn brown and wither. Massive trees might survive for a few decades without light because of their slow metabolism and sugar reserves. But they wouldn't grow. They would just stand there, dormant sentinels in the dark. Within a few weeks, the panic would set in as the food supply chain collapses. Herbivores, animals that eat plants, would begin to starve as the vegetation died off. As the herbivores die, the predators and scavengers would briefly feast on the carcasses, but their clock would be ticking too. By the end of the first month, the Earth is hurtling through space, and things are getting desperate. The surface temperature has significantly dropped. The ocean's surface would begin to freeze. But here is an interesting nuance. Ice is actually a good insulator. Once a layer of ice forms on the top of the ocean, it prevents the heat from the deep water from escaping into space. Because of this, the deep oceans would remain liquid for hundreds of thousands of years. Life in the oceans would change drastically. The phytoplankton, which form the base of the marine web food, require sunlight. They would die almost immediately. This would trigger a massive extinction event for almost all marine life. However, there is one place life would continue as if nothing happened: the deep sea hydrothermal vents. These strange ecosystems are powered by heat and chemicals from the Earth's core, not the sun. Tube worms and extremophile bacteria down there wouldn't even know the sun was gone. They are the likely inheritors of the Earth in this scenario. Back on the surface, humanity is facing a decision. We can't stay up here. Within a year, global surface temperatures would dip to around minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmosphere itself would begin to change. The cold would be so intense that the moisture in the air would freeze and fall as snow, leaving the air incredibly dry. To survive, humanity would have to migrate. We would need to move underground. Our best bet would be to cluster around areas of geothermal activity. Countries like Iceland or regions like Yellowstone Park would become the most valuable real estate in the world. We would need to burrow deep into the crust to harness the heat radiating from the Earth's core. We could also survive using nuclear power. A nuclear submarine, for example, can run for months or years without surfacing. We could build massive insulated habitats powered by nuclear reactors. These cities would act as lifeboats. We would have to grow food hydroponically under artificial lights. It wouldn't be a great life. No sky, no seasons, just cramped corridors and recycled air. But the human species could technically survive. Did you know that leaving a like and subscribing to the channel really helps us out? Let's fast forward. 10 years without the sun. By now, the surface of the Earth is a frozen wasteland. It is completely dark, save for the stars and the artificial lights of any remaining surface expeditions. The temperature is now so low that the atmosphere itself begins to collapse. This is a terrifying concept. As the temperature drops towards minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit, the gases that make up our air, nitrogen and oxygen, would turn from gas to liquid and eventually into a solid. It would literally rain liquid air. Eventually, the atmosphere would freeze and fall to the ground as a layer of air snow, perhaps 30 feet thick. Without an atmosphere, there's no air pressure, no protection from cosmic rays, and no insulation. The Earth is now a naked, frozen rock. At this point, any human surviving would have to be buried deep, deep underground in pressurized environments, completely cut off from the surface. But what about our journey through space? Remember, we are traveling at 67,000 miles per hour. We are sailing through the interstellar void. The odds of us hitting anything are astronomically low. Space is mostly empty. We could travel for millions of years and never come close to another star.
However, let's play the odds. If we drift long enough, there is a tiny chance that Earth could be captured by another star's gravity. This happens in the universe. Planets get ejected from their home systems and eventually find new parents. But this would be a violent affair. If we were pulled into a new solar system, the sudden reintroduction of heat and gravity could cause massive earthquakes and melt the frozen atmosphere explosively. It might destroy whatever life is left. Or perhaps we drift into a black hole. Or maybe we just drift forever. If we look at the very long term, millions of years, the Earth would eventually cool down to match the background temperature of the universe, which is just a few degrees above absolute zero. The core would eventually solidify. The planet would be a frozen time capsule of human civilization. Imagine an alien civilization finding Earth a billion years from now. They would find a frozen world covered in layers of nitrogen ice. If they dug down, they might find the ruins of our cities, perfectly preserved by the cold and the vacuum. They would see our skyscrapers, our cars, our books, all frozen in time, a monument to a civilization that lived by the grace of a star that disappeared. So, while the idea of the sun disappearing is a fun thought experiment, it really highlights how fragile our existence is. We live in a very specific, very lucky Goldilocks zone. We are not too hot, not too cold. We have liquid water, breathable air, and a food chain that works, all because of that giant ball of burning plasma 93 million miles away. Every sandwich you eat, every breath you take, and every step you walk is powered, ultimately, by solar energy. The sun drives the weather, the ocean currents, and the biological cycles of life. Without it, Earth is just a rock. But let's pull back from the doom and gloom for a second. This scenario proves something incredible about human ingenuity. While 99.9% of life on Earth would be wiped out within a few years, humans are stubborn. We are adaptable. The fact that we can sit here and scientifically plot out how we would survive using geothermal vents and nuclear reactors shows that we are more than just biological distinct entities. We are problem solvers. If the sun went out tomorrow, it would be the end of the world as we know it, but it wouldn't necessarily be the end of us. We would become a species of the dark, huddled around our artificial fires, telling stories of the days when the sky was blue and the air was warm. We would become travelers of the galaxy, riding our frozen planet through the stars, perhaps searching for a new home. But let's be honest, I prefer the Tuesday afternoon with the blue sky. It's a good reminder to go outside, feel the warmth on your face, and appreciate that giant nuclear fusion reactor in the sky. It's doing a lot more work than just giving you a tan. So next time you see a sunset, don't just watch it for the beauty. Watch it with the realization that it is the engine of absolutely everything you hold dear. And be glad that at least for the next few billion years, it isn't going anywhere.